Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 110 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of All Things Elite. My name is the Sly One, Jordan Fox, and with me, as always, your Floyd and Savior, Mr. Floyd Johnson Jr. Floyd, what's up, man?
Dude, I feel like I might need like a Valium or something. I say that because I'm so excited to do this show. And I feel like I need to calm down. Hopefully my excitement and loudness doesn't come through. I mean, oh God, how much I love the Elite. So I am here to hopefully be one of the voices of the fans of the Elite, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let's start off by talking with everyone for just a second, and we're going to tell them how we got to this position, how we got on socialsuplex.com and the Social Suplex Podcast Network, and go from there. So just to start things off, this is going to be a weekly show that will be on, just like we said, socialsuplex.com and the Social Suplex Podcast Network, and it's going to be a weekly show covering all things ATE, man. All things Elite. And we're talking about the Elite. We're talking about Cody, Adam Page, the Young Bucks, anything and everything. We're going to talk about all Elite Wrestling. And, for those of y'all, you should know what all Elite Wrestling is, but if you don't, we're going to talk about that here in the coming moments of the show here in just a little bit. But just to go over a little bit about Floyd and myself, we'll start with Floyd. So, Floyd, you want to tell everybody how we met or what?
Yeah, this is it. I mean, me and you, we're both, you've been recording, we record a podcast together, but we're both kind of podcast veterans. We've had, I record a show called Around the Ring, and we were just talking about, and you saw that Around the Ring had the OK in it, and you was like, is that for Oklahoma? And we started talking. We have a mutual friend, and we had a mutual friend in the wrestling business. And I was listening to your show, and then one day you were like, "Hey, I need a guest host, a couple times a week." And I was like, "Of course." Because I'm one of those people, dude. I'm always down to talk about wrestling, and it ended up kind of becoming a permanent thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should have looked it up to see how long we've been together, but we've been together, I would say, probably 6 months now doing a daily show. We just lowered it. It was a 1 hour daily show, 5 days a week, every weekday, Monday through Friday. You work nights. Your shoot job is a night job. So you get off work, you come home, and I get up early, and we meet right in the middle, and we do an hour of wrestling, and for you, it kind of caps off your day before you sleep and go back to work. And for me, it kind of starts off my day, so it's like the perfect mixture.
We were literally just talking about that. That's how I decompress. It's like, that's how, sometimes you got to leave work at work. And that's my best way. It's like I get home. I generally have a little while before we actually record. I sit there, can go through my night or whatever, and then I talk about wrestling, and it's like everything that happened before then is just gone. Wrestling is my peace. Wrestling is my happiness. Wrestling is my life. So it's like I completely let go of everything else when we talk about wrestling.
Absolutely, man. I absolutely love it. And just to I always find it kind of weird to talk about myself, but we'll give a little background just for a second here. So, about a year ago now, I actually left my shoot job as a firefighter paramedic, and I was looking for what I wanted to do next in my life. I was about to hit 30 years old. I was like, man, what am I going to do? And I actually had been following socialsuplex.com, and I was looking for a New Japan podcast to learn about what's currently going on in New Japan, the history of New Japan. So I was on Reddit, and I posted the question about it, and some people recommended me to a podcast on Social Suplex. So I contacted them. I contacted Jeremy Donovan and Josh, and they I started listening to their podcast, and they were really cool. And I asked them, I was just like, hey, man, can I try to start, like, writing articles for your website? And they were like, yeah, we'll give you a shot. So they actually gave me my first shot in the wrestling business. And from there, I got a publicist job for a wrestling promotion based out of mine and your native Oklahoma. And from there, I got 2 commentary jobs that I currently work in for 2 different wrestling promotions, one in Oklahoma, one in Texas. And then about 2 or 3 months, I guess, after me and you hooked up and started doing our daily show, I actually started training. So now I'm about halfway through my training right now to become a professional wrestler myself. So, like, I feel like you and I are the perfect mixture to do a show, because I was a wrestling fan as a child, and around the time, maybe a year or 2 after I kind of figured out that it was, I guess, kind of a work, I guess you would say. Mm-hmm. Around that time, I really started, just to put it bluntly, for a typical teenage boy, like, I got interested in girls, and I wanted to, like, hang out with girls all the time and stuff, and I kind of fell out of my wrestling fandom. I never stopped being a fan, but I didn't follow the product week to week, right? So there's, like, a big gap up until about 3 years ago when my son got into it, and I really fell back in love with indie wrestling and WWE. There's a pretty big gap, and I always say on our other show that you are one of the smartest guys I've ever met in wrestling. You and our other friend, Marvelous Mike Moore, who hopefully maybe come on the show one day. Between you two guys, I don't think there's anything in wrestling history that y'all two don't know, and I think that's what makes me and you the perfect podcast couple, podcast team, whatever you want to call it, because, like, I have this big fandom and I have, like, this huge thirst for knowledge, and then you have this huge fandom and you have the knowledge. Does that make sense? So, like,
yeah.
So, like, a lot of our talking is me getting info from you and being like, man, that's so cool. I never knew that,
Yeah.
So it's I think people that listen to the show are going to be in for a treat to see how much you know about wrestling and how passionate we both are about wrestling. So I think it's going to be a fun show, man.
Yeah, definitely. And just filling some gaps about me. I'm 37, turned 38 this year. There was never a gap in wrestling for me. My brother's about 10 years older than me. I only bring him up because he got me into wrestling. And I mean, that's something we've shared my whole life. So like I said, I live, breathe, eat, sleep this. I honestly, I know people that I can say have been to more stuff than me, but I enjoy it all. I don't think it's a competition. I think wrestling fans should support each other. But that being said, I've been to 8 WrestleManias, over 100 WWE shows. Me
Woo!
And Jordan we're both at All In. I'll be a Double or Nothing. I mean, when it comes to this, Cody Rhodes is my favorite wrestler. I'm not going. If you feel like I am being overly affectionate or overly loving towards Cody Rhodes, I apologize for that now, because that's never going to change. He is my favorite wrestler. That's like, so yeah, that moment when he hit the 3 and the crowd popped it All In was one of the best moments in my wrestling fandom, and nothing can take that away from me. I was like, all Elite Wrestling, which I am wholeheartedly hoping is the biggest success ever, but it could fall flat on its face and no one can take that moment away. So, and that's what I feel like the Elite do, is make moments. But yeah, I met the Young Bucks for the first time in Oklahoma City, in which I didn't even know who they were. I'll be 100% honest. I did not start following the Bullet Club or the Elite until Cody signed. When Cody joined the Bullet Club in his first It was like he had his first match at ROH. Was my first match in a long time watching ROH. And, when he did his match with Juice at Wrestle Kingdom, that was my first full Wrestle Kingdom. I pretty much follow Cody where he goes, and I follow Cody into the Bullet Club, and I bought all the Bullet Club shirts. I wouldn't say all, but I got a lot of Bullet Club shirts, and then I got bought a lot of the Cody shirts, and so believe me, I am a fan, and you will hear my fandom through my voice, and I hopefully represent the voice of the fans. So that's what I try to do every day. And if you feel like I'm coming up short anyway in my passion, please let me know. I do want to take this moment to announce our Twitter,
Sweet.
The Twitter is it's AT Elite Pod at Twitter. So it's AT Elite Pod. And then when you go to it, it's All Things Elite, complete with our logo. Add us, chat us, tell us if you think we can do something better, if we can cover up something more. I can tell you, since this is our first episode, we are a little bit behind all the other Elite podcasts, and there is so much information, we're not going to cover it all on this first show. But we're hoping you grow with us. We will cover as much as we can today, and hopefully as we do more, we get better as you get better with us. And the only way we get better is hearing from you and hearing feedback about what you want us to cover, what you want us to focus on. I am not the biggest. I am trying to learn my knowledge on the deal with OWE. I am going to do everything I can to learn as much as I can. And we're with Meltzer, and I'm signing up for, the Voices of Wrestling pod, and I'm going to try to give you all the information that I have. But this is really not like a news podcast. This is a fan podcast. So I'm going to take the news and tell you what I think about it, how I get excited, hopefully tell you about events that's coming up, and one thing you will learn about us, we are very, very positive.
Yes, that is one thing. And I have noticed that at times that does bother some people, so I hope it doesn't bother anybody listening, but we are very, the glass is half full kind of guys, so there's a lot of things like, and I'm not going to talk about our other show all the time, but like, that's like my reference point, and especially something like this, like, on our other show, there's lots of things that we cover about WWE, and we could just sit there and just bash them and stuff, but we just kind of try to highlight the positive things.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
We're going to focus.
We're going to focus on the good stuff. We're wrestling fans. You know what I mean? We know as wrestling fans that there's a lot of crap out there. You know what I mean? So, but why not just try to highlight what we did like? You know what I mean? Because all it's going to do is just put me in a bad mood if all the wrestling that I talk about is just junk wrestling. You know what I mean?
Because I want to tell you what to go watch. You know what I'm saying? I don't really want to focus on what not to watch. I'm just like social media, Twitter, and all that stuff. I'm on it. I post and stuff, but it can be so negative at times. And I just think the one thing about the elite, the elite and their group of people is they're trying to change the universe, trying to change the world. They're trying to put a light out in the world. And you know what? If that's the case, my podcast is going to represent that light that they're trying to put out in the world. So our podcast it's perfect for us because it goes with our natural sensibilities. It's to be a light to the world, not to focus on the negative.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we start talking about some All Elite Wrestling, man? Where do you want to start at? Do you want to start with, well, why don't we start with the Elite? So why don't you just kind of go over the members of the Elite and tell us if they have all signed with All Elite Wrestling or not?
Yes, so it looks like other than, so the obvious Cody, Adam Page, the Young Bucks, Hangman, and Brandy, they've all, of course, signed with All Elite. Her role is going to be the chief brand officer, or the chief brandy officer, as she's been so affectionately called. Cody and the Young Bucks are all executive vice presidents. They all have that title. Adam Page he's a worker. He's the star. He probably will still help backstage and stuff like that. But as far as I know, the only title he has is, contracted performer. So that's great. Kenny Omega, his contract with New Japan's not up to January 31st. So, and it's funny because I listen to other podcasts that are like, why won't he just announce where he's going? Well, he really can't. He's under contract till January 31st, so he can't announce until, February 1st, just like the Young Bucks and Cody waited until January 1st. And then Marty Scurll, I've heard so many different rumors with his contract. I've heard his contract's up in April. I heard that June, and now I'm hearing November. So whenever his contract is up, eventually I think he'll be coming to AEW. I mean, I know other people like to pretend like there's a chance he might sign somewhere else, and Marty's kind of like he seems like somewhat of the loner of the group, but I think all said and done, he's AEW. They're gonna put a spotlight on him that, he's not gonna get into WWE. If he's in the WWE, he's gonna be a cruiserweight, He's in New Japan, he's going to be a junior. I mean, that's how it is. AEW is going to treat him like the professional wrestler that he is. He is going to be a featured act.
Let's back up one person and speculate on Kenny Omega for a second, because you and I haven't actually had time to talk about this, but I read a report, and you might know if this is false or not, but I think it was on Fightful.com, and they said that reportedly Kenny Omega turned down a $3.5 million a year downside guarantee from WWE. Have you read that? Do you know if it's true?
I have.
And where do you think Kenny Omega is going?
I've read it. And you know what? I try to take all news online with a grain of salt. I'm going to say, with AEW, with ROH, with Impact, with everybody bidding, I will say I believe it's true that he got offered that much. AJ, that's right around the AJ number. So he definitely got offered that much. I think with Kenny Omega, if I just go with a gut, I don't think it's about the money. I think it's about the performance. I think it's about creative control. And I think it's about wrestling with his friends, working with his friends.
The best way that I would describe Kenny Omega to people is like, I kind of think he's kind of like the Eddie Vedder of professional wrestling. Eddie Vedder's the lead singer of Pearl Jam, and Eddie Vedder is always like, I've got money. Like, I want to create art that I would listen to. I want to create art that I enjoy. And I think Kenny Omega has that mindset. The last several years, he's made quite a bit of money in regards to being a professional wrestler that has never, been in WWE. I know he was in a developmental territory for a while, but he was never on the main roster. So, he's a very high-paid wrestler for someone that's not in WWE. And I think he's kind of got that mindset of, I've got money, I can make money, I want to create art that I enjoy and that touches people.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that in any way?
Absolutely. And you see with the Young Bucks, they've been together and tight for years. And you can kind of tell, what a person's mindset is a lot of times by kind of how they dress. And Kenny Omega is a t-shirt and jeans kind of dude. You know what I mean? It's not it's not like, I'm not saying, and believe me, I don't know him. Me and Kenny Omega, we've had 2 3-sentence conversations ever. So believe me, I don't know him. It's just the feel you get from him is not the feel of someone that's just like money, 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 money. He might be, but I don't get that feeling from him at all.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you say t-shirt and jeans. We seen them when I seen them. I was coming out a side door when I got to meet Cody and Brandy for just a brief second at All In, and they were coming in trying to sneak in a side door, and I just happened to be walking out said side door. And Kenny Omega and I passed each other, and he was in a pair of cutoff jeans, no shoes, and a white plain Fruit of the Loom t-shirt. I just thought it was so funny. Like, this guy's making $750,000 a year in New Japan. Dude showed up in a pair of 9-year-old Levi's that he cut into shorts and no shoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the dude's not rocking Rolexes. You know what I mean? It's just
right.
Yeah, it's like, and like I said, that's for me. It's speculation, and I will speculate a lot on this because I am a fan and I don't know these people personally. He just doesn't. He seems to more about the art of professional wrestling than he does about. He does about money in professional wrestling, because he could have signed the WWE deal. It was there. If you just want the money, it was there.
Right.
So,
let's talk about some female wrestlers for a minute. So, who was the first female? Not we're excluding Brandy in this one, and I wouldn't say we're not excluding her. We're not saying she's not a wrestler, but I would just say because she's in the elite. So, who was besides Brandy? Who was the first female signed, and has there been more female signed since then?
Yes, with the first female, I was more of the first female exclusive performer. Like, she's just going to be wrestling.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, just going to be wrestling, and that's Dr. Britt Baker. And I really do want. She is a working dentist, and apparently the contract that she signed worked around her having her career as a dentist. But she is the first female performer, full-time performer signed for All Elite Wrestling. We saw her at All In, and I heard a lot of people say that was their favorite match of the show, was the Fatal 4-Way Women's match. So it's just, and it's kind of funny because you look at that women's match, it was her, Chelsea Green, Tessa Blanchard, and Madison Rayne. Tessa, Impact. Madison Rayne signed an exclusive deal with ROH. Chelsea Green pretty much went straight to WWE after the show. And then, Britt Baker signs with AEW. It's like, that match was so over, all 4 of those women signed contracts on it. And then you had, just to throw another woman from that show, Jordan Grace, she signs an exclusive deal with Impact. And she pretty much has said on Twitter that she's given the credit to her All In performance for that.
Wow. Yeah, Jordan Grace is a beast, man.
Yeah, she was like one of those people that if you were really into wrestling, you knew, but you didn't know. And then All In, it just opened up the eyes, because she's to a whole bunch of other people that wouldn't know who she was generally.
Right. Let's talk about SCU, man. So has all 3 members of SCU signed, and do you see maybe a possible, like, Von Erichs versus Freebirds kind of feud in between the Elite and SCU?
SCU! Let me say this about SCU. I don't think they're going to do it because they feuded in the ROH and stuff, and what they've said is they're really trying to bring in different. I think they'll be more featured than they were before. I think Christopher Daniels, personally, it has not been announced. This, again, me speculating. I think he'll be like a wrestler and producer role. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I think he'll be doing a little bit of both. Frankie Kazarian has the cigar company with Cody. So, and then Scorpio Sky, he's just a hell of a performer that no one knew about just because he wasn't put in the right position. So I think they're going to figure out a way to present them a little, definitely differently. And, I imagine AEW is going to have a tag team title, and, they'll probably be up for it, and they're very good, because the thing about them is they're like when you talk about baseball players, they talk about 5-tool players, and those are players that can, they can field, they can hit, they can do it. SCU is like a 5-tool group. You want to do a comedic match, they can do it. You want to do ladder wars, they can do it. You want to put on a 5-star technical match, they can do it. They are so all around talented as 3 people, as a group of 3, and and they're good on the mic, and of course they got the catchphrase, and it's like, and they're one of the few people that can come into your town and say it's the worst town that you ever been in and get over.
And the whole town chanted.
Yeah. and that's just like, yeah. And then, because that used to just be such a old school heel tactic to say this is like the worst town ever. But they made it pop.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Real quick, so you just mentioned that you figure that AEW will have a tag team title and they'll be in the runnings for it if you imagine so. Or you imagine anyway. Is there any word on the names of the titles, how many titles, if there will be a women's title, a secondary men's title, anything like that? Have we had any word on any of that?
We have got no word on the titles and the names. Hangman at the initial press conference, said he wanted to be the first AEW World Champion, and that's pretty much the only thing I ever heard. With them being all about equality, that almost guarantees there's going to be a women's title. But yeah, and because from what I've heard, Cody's going to kind of be over the singles division. I mean, all of those things that they do, all 3 of them have to say yes. So I'm not going to say he's going to be exclusively over, but Cody's going to kind of run the singles division. The Bucks are going to kind of run the tag team division. And then Brandy's going to run the women's division. That's how
so she's going to run the women's division. I did not know that.
Yes, because what a lot of people lose the fact is, over the last few years, Cody and Brandy have taken a lot of bookings that they pretty much didn't have to take. And so it's one of those things. They've been wrestling, but they've also been scouting. And, they've been looking, and they've been, looking at talent all around the world. So who better to decide what talent to bring in than the people that is actually locked up with them?
Yeah, I could see it.
So,
yeah,
I can definitely see it. Yeah, I mean, I imagine, Tony Khan, who we'll talk about later, he's going to have a say in booking, and everyone's going to have a say in booking and the storytelling, but in general, that's how they're going to kind of be over the talent acquisitions for each of their individual groups.
Okay, I get it. Another person that we know, probably one of the most experienced, I would say, guys that has signed with AEW so far is Y2J, Chris Jericho. Do you have any idea what his contract entails, like what his job will be with the promotion, anything like that? And another thing is, will he be a contracted wrestler as well?
Yes, he is clearly the biggest star that they signed. I have to kind of swallow my pride because I'm a Cody guy, and I think Cody's kind of God. But, of course, Chris Jericho's Chris Jericho. He's been doing this for 20 years. He's main evented WrestleMania. Pretty much, when you say an accomplishment, you might as well say try to figure out the things he hasn't done, because he's done so much. So he's definitely the biggest name, biggest following with Fozzy. He is a 3-year deal, and he is a contracted wrestler. He was on his show, and he just talked about how important it is that he shows up and performs, and he is there to help launch the startup company. And it's kind of awesome, because when they talk about the company, they talk about this is a startup. This is like a Tech Valley or any other company. It's a startup. And, they have to, guide how things are going so they can launch and, be great. So Chris Jericho is Chris Jericho brings legitimacy to All Elite Wrestling. I mean, of course, Cody and the Bucks, they have their hardcore fans, but Chris Jericho's going to bring the casuals.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The casual fans, like you just said, the casual wrestling fan will see legitimacy in this promotion if for no other reason when they see Chris Jericho's name on there. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree. Speaking of, so I kind of stuttered a second ago when I said probably the most experienced guy being Chris Jericho, and the reason that I kind of thought about that for a second was because there is no official word, I don't believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but good old JR, Jim Ross, our fellow Oklahoma native, there's a lot of talk about him possibly coming to the promotion when his contracts with other promotions are up. Is there any word on that? Any timetable, anything like that? Or is it not even true?
I believe his WWE contract is up mid-March. And that being said, I mean, honestly, most people think he's coming to AEW. Definitely going to work backstage with, the talent and acquisition and stuff like that. And they think he might be the voice of the show. I would, I'm holding back on that just because it's going to be what JR wants to do. JR is going to be able to call his shot in this case.
Really? You think, like, you talking about, like, any job that he wants, any type of money he wants, like that kind of call his shot? Or like
any job he wants. I don't know about any kind of money because, like I said, they are running it like a startup. They are trying to spend their money wisely, but
right.
they're gonna find a spot for JR. JR's been in wrestling a long time. I mean, seriously, he's been in wrestling even longer than Chris Jericho, which is kind of hard to say because
exactly
because he's been in there forever. But I think that kind of knowledge, that kind of wisdom is important to have around. I mean, this will probably be the most negative thing. I wasn't the big a fan of his NJPW announcing. I didn't think it was horrible, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. So I would definitely want him to be 100% familiar with the product if he's calling All Elite Wrestling. And my opinion is that they should bring someone in younger that is going to, be associated like the voice of All Elite. But then you think about it the other way, and this is very much the positive way. JR is like Chris Jericho. His voice reaches the casuals. People that don't like wrestling know who Jim Ross is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy's been around since, when did he get his start? The 70s?
Yeah,
early 80s?
yeah.
Way back then.
Yeah, the late 70s, 80s. So, it's one of those things people know. When you say Jim Ross, you're like, oh, the wrestling guy, that's what you hear, the OU guy. You hear when he says that. So he definitely brings a legitimacy to the company. So, maybe they find somebody to do announcing and he's the color. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm looking forward to whatever they decide to do.
Yeah, absolutely. What about Joey Janela and Penelope Ford? Any word on, are they solely contracted talent, or will they have any backstage role? What do you think there?
From what I understand, they are just contracted talent. I don't believe Joey Janela's exclusive. He'll still be allowed to run his Joey Janela spring break and do his stuff with Game Changer. And
right.
then he'll still work with All Elite like he did at All In. Penelope Ford. Look at it's almost seriously. I think like every woman that was on All In has an exclusive contract with the company right now.
Say that one more time.
Like every woman that was in All In has an exclusive or a contract with the company right now. Because Jordan Grace was in the
point. Yeah, you mentioned the fatal four-way that they had and how each one of them are with a different one, and then you add on Jordan Grace, who is also with Impact with Tessa Blanchard, right?
Yeah. So now you got Penelope Ford.
5 major female wrestlers, and now, like you said, and now Penelope Ford, who didn't have her own match, but she did show off her talents in the Joey Janela versus Hangman Page match, where that was the one and only time I've got to see Penelope Ford in a ring live. I've got to see her live at a press conference. Me and you seen her live at the press conference.
Yeah, I actually have a picture with her.
Oh yeah. But yeah, those backflip handsprings that she does, getting away from people, that spot that she does, that is so cool to me, man. I just love that.
Yeah, and that backflip into the stunner. Yeah, she's super talented, and I think they're gonna get, complete use out of her. And her and Joey Janela have their act down. That she plays
absolutely.
She plays the perfect role for him. So it's like, they balance each other out really well. And then she's a tremendous singles competitor. I saw her in a match against Jazz at NWA 70. So she can go on her own. So that's great. And like I said, it's just, they opening the doors for more opportunities for more wrestlers.
Yeah, absolutely. The next person I want to talk about, and I'm so excited, that's why I'm just jumping right on this one right here. Tell everyone about our favorite new wrestler, MJF, bro.
Dude, if you never, I can't even say met MJF. I think that's almost underselling it. If you've never had the MJF experience, you freaking need to. MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, is a character, and you don't know where he begins and the character ends. He's so good at what he does. I'm literally at All In insulting me to my face, and I got a big smile on my face, because this is pure wrestling. This is 80s wrestling. This is never losing your gimmick. You're going to be a dick. And, some people, there is always a risk there, because, some people might not take it the right way, and they might actually try to hurt you, but he just does it in such a swarmy, nasty way that it's just beautiful. It is old school heel.
Absolutely awesome, man.
Yeah,
is absolutely awesome. Yeah, when you and I met him, he was with Brian Pillman Jr., and when MJF walked off, Brian Pillman Jr. told us, I don't know if that's really him or if that's just his gimmick, because I've never seen him act any other way. And last month, like I said earlier in the show, I am a full-time commentator for two promotions, one in Texas, one in Oklahoma. Well, the Texas promotion I work for, we brought in Brian Pillman Jr., and I got to spend, about a half hour with him backstage, just me and him chit-chatting. We exchanged numbers and stuff like that. And we've talked a couple of times, and he's actually mentioned that since then. He's told me, he's like, yeah, dude, that guy is freaking awesome. I don't know where his gimmick ends and the real person starts. He's just it's just so seamless. So for a guy that grew up, with a dad as a professional wrestler that pioneered, blurring that kayfabe line, that's high praise. You know what I mean? Saying something like that, because Brian Pillman, the original, is the king of living his gimmick. You know what I mean? If you ask me.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a really cool conversation that I got to have with Pillman Jr.
And I absolutely agree. MJF is one of those things. It's sometimes you'll hear wrestlers they'll say heels and faces are dead. There's no such thing as a heel or face. I'm like, MJF's a heel. MJF will not let you cheer him. MJF will ridicule you for trying to cheer him. He is a new age heel. If you want to be a heel and get heel heat, you watch MJF, because he knows how to do it. He will not let you root for him.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this before. About 2 months after I started training, and I'm getting into the game a little late. I didn't start training until I was 29 before I started in-ring training and stuff. And so I was really, I was kind of I really want to wrestle a more, the 80s style of wrestling. The Miz, I know the Miz is not, he's obviously not an 80s wrestler, but he wrestles that style, that kind of Ric Flair style. It's not the strong style that is being popularized today, right? So I was telling you about that, and right around that time that I started thinking of, I wonder how much, how many other people are going to wrestle that style in, say, like 5 years, or a strong style is going to take over all of wrestling. And it was right after that Meltzer had published an article or published a newsletter, and he mentioned MJF, and he said MJF is the first of a wave of new professional wrestlers that are taking it a little bit back from strong style and going more of an 80s style of in-ring work and going very heavy on character work, like back in the 80s, whereas today it's more of in-ring competition and less about the character work. MJF is the first of this. He's like the spearhead of this new wave that we're going to be seeing in the next 5 to 10 years of people going more towards character work and going an older school style of wrestling. And I just thought that was so cool that right around the time that I kind of figured out, like, that's what I want to do. Like, it's being popularized, and MGF being like the face of that new movement. I just think that's really, really cool, man. And yeah, like we said, dude, there's no line of kayfabe for him. Like, it's all like he lives kayfabe. It's absolutely, it's almost refreshing in today's wrestling world, What about Pac, man? Like, you got Pac is officially a contracted wrestler for AEW, right?
Yes, he is officially a contracted wrestler. He showed up to the press conference with his Dragon Gate Open the Dream Gate belt, which is their main title. He's their champion. And it looks like they were setting up a feud between him and Hangman for the title at Double or Nothing. Yeah, I thought this was a big signing. I thought this is they treated him like he was a big deal, and they treated him. I mean, seriously, Hangman has good 5-6 inches on him, and a few, probably about 50 pounds, but they treated him like he was almost the bigger star of the group. And, and it's like when you're that level, when this is what you'll get with some of the people that defect from the WWE, if they do defect, it'll be it's just that, they're not worried about size limits. They're not worried about everybody being 6'2", 280, 6'7", 280 or whatever. They're like, if you can work, if you're elite, if you're an elite athlete, they want you. And
right.
Devil, there's not many more elite athletes than him.
No, absolutely not. And I think, me personally, I think in the next 2 years, if they haven't already, I think WWE is going to rue the day that they're really going to regret the day that they let Pac walk away, that they let Adrian Neville walk away, because I think this guy's got big star material written all over him. He's just an absolute beast.
Yeah, and now with their UK division, he definitely could have. Could you imagine him and Pete Dunne having a match?
Oh no! I mean, God, they had to know at that point in time. WWE, like, that NXT UK is not something that they just thought of and got it out 6 weeks later. Like, that was in the plans for a long time.
Yeah,
and they should have known, But hey, what are you going to do? Because it's going to do nothing but benefit us as the fans, because he just brings another layer into the AEW promotion that's being started.
So. And with any wrestling company, you're going to get a wrestler, and he might not be mature enough, he might not have the physique, and, he might not work out with you. And then he goes to another company, and maybe he gets more serious about it. Maybe he works out a little bit more, and then he hits with that company. And people are going to be like, how'd you miss out on that guy? Well, he wasn't that guy when we had him. It's like Drew McIntyre. It's like Drew McIntyre completely has evolved as a character, from the time he was in WWE the first time. So it's like, to say WWE missed out on him, they didn't. No, he had to grow up. He'll tell you that. So I am of the opinion that you will make it when you're supposed to make it, where you're supposed to make it. I think AEW is going to do a great job of spotlighting people that might not have been spotlighted elsewhere. And I think Pac is going to definitely be one of those people. He is he fits more to me, he fits more with AEW than he fits with WWE, because he is very much indie popular. And it is just like the indie fan base, even though this is not an indie anymore, the indie fan base loves Pac. So this is where he needs to be. They also, and I didn't put this on the show notes, but they also announced a deal with OWE. The Oriental Wrestling Entertainment is how I understand it. I've heard Oriental Wrestling Experience, so forgive me if I'm wrong. But the Strong Hearts which is a group of wrestlers led by Shima. They're going to be apparently performing with all Elite Wrestling. He's going to bring guys over there, and they're going to get featured in the spotlight. The reason I bring this up, I'm very excited. I know they announced it, but the fact is, All Elite Wrestling, I think what people are missing out is, people want to call them WCW, people want to call them ECW. I think that's what you're missing out on. All Elite Wrestling doesn't really care where you're wrestling right now. If you're good at wrestling and you bring something unique and you bring something that they feel fans will pay to see, they'll use you. Of course, they want to be under the All Elite name brand or whatever, but it's just like, if you're just, trying to get over with them and, go back to your other company, I don't think they'll mind that. You know what I mean? It's just, they want to put on the best wrestling product before, because thinking about having exclusive contracts and exclusive this, that is the WWE's way of thinking, which has worked really, really well for them. I mean, they're $1 billion company. I'm not knocking them, but their goal is that they want to change the universe. The goal is they want to present an alternative. And the only way to do that is to actually be an alternative, is to actually be different.
Yeah. Real quick, while we're on that, we're going to veer just for a second, because I want to ask you, when AEW premieres, let's say 6 months after they premiere, they got a TV deal, whether it's, I assume it's going to be a weekly show. If, everything works out right, they'll have pay-per-views and stuff. In six months after the first show goes on the air, do you see AEW as a clear number 3 behind Ring of Honor and WWE? Do you put them number 4 behind WWE, Ring of Honor, and Impact? Or do you put them at a close number 2 to WWE, or, a distant number 2?
I'm going to say a distant number 2 to WWE.
Distant number 2, yeah.
I mean, and that's how it is. It's like WWE is laughing the competition. But I'm just saying, it's going to be 5 or 10 years before you would say, oh, they're our actual number 2. But they took the biggest stars. I'm just saying, like, Ring of Honor Wrestling, they took the biggest stars from Ring of Honor. They did. They took the biggest draws. They took Cody, the Bucks, and Hangman. They took the biggest draws. Marty's still there. He's a draw, but I'm just saying, they took like 4 of the 5 biggest draws. So it's just like, they literally weakened Ring of Honor by the moment they left them. Impact Wrestling always seems to be holding on by a string. Like always. It's good. And I'll tell anybody, their week-to-week product is 10 times better than it's been recently. It's one of the reasons I said All Elite should acquire Impact. Their week-to-week product is freaking amazing, and I think everybody should be watching it. And if you're a fan of women's wrestling, they feature women's wrestling quite a bit on Impact Wrestling. But of course, this show's not about Impact. It's about All Elite. And when I'm saying that, it's just the people you have make you number 2. The passionate fan base, the social media marketing that they do so well. Like, some of the biggest fans I know in wrestling are All Elite fans. And I was it was an idea I brought up, and I haven't got a chance to talk to you about it. Is that as we're getting closer to Double or Nothing, I've met a few hardcore Elite fans, and I'm going to interview them for this show. The reason being is I believe the whole reason this is happening is because of their hardcore fan base. I don't know. I've heard Kiss of Our Generation. That's what I've heard. The Elite. I've always said they're more like a Backstreet Boys and NSYNC to me, but people might stab me for that, so I apologize. But yeah, I just want to interview fans. I want to get their thoughts, their experiences with All Elite, because I think it's important for people to hear from them, because they're the lifeblood of all AEW. They're the reason AEW exists.
Yeah, I totally get that. Just to kind of get back on track to talking about some of the personnel that we know is going to be a part of the show currently. Explain to us who Shahid Khan is.
Shahid Khan, or Shad Khan, some people call him, but based on what I looked in the pronunciation, it's actually Shahid. He is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars and Fulton FC football club in London. He's worth over $6 billion. So the dude's rich. And pretty much he's the money man, and this is his son's passion project. So he was at a press conference wearing his he was at the press conference wearing his All Elite hat, and he's like, and he was there, you know what I'm saying? But he probably could give a crap about wrestling.
And so you don't think Shahid Khan cares so much about wrestling, but his son, Tony Khan, right?
His son, Tony Khan,
is the big wrestling fan?
Yeah, seriously, he's on my level. He's on the extreme. He's the tape trader. He was at the ECW arena in the 90s,
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like every rumor, everything I've heard of is he's a guy. He was at the New Japan show in San Francisco. He was in the first row.
Really? No, I didn't know any of that.
Dude's a hardcore wrestling fan. I mean,
wow.
If anything, if I didn't know anything about Cody, I would root for this company to succeed because of that reason. Because it's like, seriously, what's going on right now is if I had $100 million in a business acumen. You know what I mean? That's how I feel. I would be doing the same things he's doing. He's signing the right people. He's making the right decisions. And he's doing the best thing. He's putting smart wrestling minds around him, smart business minds, people that know wrestling around him. So, so it can be a success. And yeah, seriously, it's every time I learn more about Tony Khan, he's becoming more of my role model.
I dig it, man. I absolutely dig it.
I mean, just like sometimes I've said that he's just me if he had a shit ton of money.
Hey, the last bit of, or the last group, I should say, of contracted personnel for AEW that I want to talk about today, that we are going to talk about today, are the three producers that you found so far, and that's Billy Gunn, BJ Whitmer, and Jeff Jones. I think just about anyone listening to the show probably already know who Mr. Ass is, Billy Gunn. But who is BJ Whitmer?
BJ Whitmer, he's the ROH through and through. He was working backstage at ROH. He's been with ROH over 10 years. I'm just going to use that. I mean, I could probably do more research and get you exact dates, but come on. If you want to know, Wikipedia's there. But he's been there for more than 10 years. He was working backstage with them. They had somewhat of a falling out, and he left, and he landed with AEW. He's a veteran, He works the locker room. He's a manager. He's definitely going to help when help is needed. As far as with the young wrestlers, he's Cody announced there's not going to be any writers. There's not going to be any hired or contracted writers or whatever. So it's like that'll probably be something that the producers help out a lot with. Billy Gunn he was one of the trainers for a long time with the WWE. He's been but they've both been in wrestling so long that their knowledge is going to be invaluable.
So when Cody says that there's not going to be any writers, so they're just going to put together a week-to-week show, just like as a group. There's going to the booking committee is going to talk about it, or
pretty much,
or does that mean like maybe they're not going to rely so much on storylines? They're going to be more ring based. Where like they don't need much of a storyline. They let's say Kenny Omega and Cody go head-to-head. Kenny Omega goes over, and then Hangman Page comes out, like New Japan style, and just challenge upon challenge? Or if you want to speculate a little bit on that, how are they going to put together like a week-to-week program?
Specifically said, you've heard how WWE used to be, or WWF used to be written it was Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson hanging out at a pool. And it's like wrestling didn't used to be as complicated as the WWE makes it right now. It was like, hey, you two guys feud. Well, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And someone will be like, that sounds stupid. And it's going to be more like that. It's going to be a collaborative effort with the wrestlers. That's how I see it. It's just like, it's going to lean to the strengths of the wrestlers, against their weaknesses. And then they're going to tell the best stories, and they're going to have surprises. And the best thing about that, without any writers, is you're not going to have like these big scripts that get leaked before the show, and you're going to be able to actually surprise people. That's what one of the things I do miss about wrestling, and especially in the 80s and 90s, is being genuinely shocked when stuff happened.
Right. I wonder, man, I'm just so curious, like, how close they can get to, being as big as the WWE. I know that's, it's a fool's errand. Anybody that ever tries to get as big as the WWE fails miserably. But I'm just so curious because it looks like they're doing stuff so much different than the WWE is currently doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Mike Bennett has been really putting out the hashtag trust the process. That's been his really big thing. And I honestly think that's how business and companies should be run. Trust the process. I think if All Elite spends their money wisely, books the right people, and just try to put on the best show that they can every week, you won't have to worry about competing with the WWE, because you will. Because if your week-to-week product is quality every week, you'll already be ahead of the WWE. Because a lot of times, and this is from other fans and just anybody look, WWE's week-to-week product isn't worth watching.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can just come out and put on their best performances and make their show must-see TV, there will be no problems. Yeah. They'll be great. They don't have to worry about the WWE. And that's the whole thing, is like, I want to be clear. I love the WWE. I do. Bottom of my heart, I have a WWF tattoo on my left leg. I have a WrestleMania tattoo on my right arm. I love the WWE. I also love the AEW. I love All Elite Wrestling. I love Ring of Honor. I love New Japan. Major League Wrestling. Impact. Women of wrestling. I think there can never be too much quality wrestling. If you wanted to put on a great wrestling show 7 days a week, I would watch a great wrestling show 7 days a week. That's just who I am. So with me, I don't think there has to be this big line in the sand. I just think you just love wrestling. Now,
right.
When you ask me if there's a Raw and an AEW show on the same night, or SmackDown and AEW show, I'm probably going to AEW.
Yeah. Now, is that because Cody, the Young Bucks, and the rest of the Elite are a part of that, or is it because it's new, or some other reason?
It's simply put, I told Cody this. I go where Cody goes. Now, Cody probably couldn't pick me out of a lineup. There's people that have met him many more times than me. But I go where Cody goes. If Cody's like, I'm going to be there. I even told him that I was like, it was like when we were at NWA 7, he's like, oh, what you doing for WrestleMania? I don't know, because I don't know what you're doing yet.
Well, I got you.
It's like, that's how it is. It's like WrestleMania week, all I know is I'm going to WrestleMania, and then everything else is up for grabs. So I am like, I still have my G1 Supercard of Honor ticket, hoping that they crash the party somehow.
I wouldn't doubt it, man. Like, that actually leads into one of the final questions that we're going to ask before we get out of here. Do you have any idea about any kind of talent swaps or any kind of working agreements that they're going to have with any other promotions?
I think they're willing to work with anyone. I think they're willing to work with anyone. I think they feel like their product is going to be presented so differently that it's not going to be like, your product. Whatever, like if you have, let's say, Brian Cage and Impact, they're going to present him differently in AEW, so therefore it won't cause an oversaturation product. Only group we know right now is the OWE. I'm hoping they get something done with Impact fairly soon. New Japan will probably be a little later in the year, but just because of the ROH and G1 Supercard of Honor. I think that's what it's called. So I think that'll be later. I think you might see some people from Championship Wrestling of Hollywood. They seem to have some kind of relationship with them. Maybe even PWG. It's just you're looking at Cody and the Young Bucks, and you look at who they have relationships with, and imagining those are going to come to fruition. Right now, there's some kind of bidding war for Pentagon and Phoenix. Seriously, Kenny signing, of course, is number one priority, but for me, that's number 2 and 3. It's like getting Pentagon and Phoenix, because unlike a lot of great tag teams, you get 2 great singles wrestlers too with them.
Yeah, they're very interchangeable, and that's not something you can say just about any tag team. They can go out there one week and defend their tag team titles, and they can put on a 5-star match and a one-on-one match the next week.
Yeah, so that would be high on my list. To me, another thing they should do is getting working relationship with Sami Callihan. I think he's another one of the best heels in the business, and I just think he's a great wrestler. He's a hot wrestler. He has a following, so I think that would be smart to get a relationship with him also.
Absolutely, yeah. My trainer, who I train with, on 2 or 3 times a week, and he's a good friend of mine. I work with him at multiple promotions, and that's Dirty Andy Dalton. He's a 15-year vet out of Texas. Him and Sami Callihan are real good friends. They've worked each other on multiple occasions, and those matches that they work together are some of the hardest hitting matches. And watching Sami Callihan in that, he can just do anything, man. He is an awesome in-ring performer. He's an awesome freaking heel too,
Yeah, it's like I said, if someone asked me if you had, their money, what's the one thing you would do? And it's acquire Impact Wrestling. That's the thing I would do. It solidifies your women's division. It makes your tag team division amazing. It makes your singles division damn near elite. It's crazy, because I honestly think they're putting on some of the best wrestling that no one's watching.
Yeah, I can see it, man. I can absolutely see it. Final thing, man, before we go, the ticket announcement party. What's going on there?
Ticket announcement party is Thursday, Thursday,
February
7th, 2019. It's 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's at the Talent Pool at MGM Grand Hotel. It is a free event open to the public. So, you're going to get some hardcore fans flying out there. More than likely, they're going to announce the tickets on sale. Probably will go on sale like the next day. But that's the next big event for All Elite Wrestling. Of course, Double or Nothing is May 25th at the MGM Garden Arena. They will also be having StarCast 2 that weekend. This is Memorial Day weekend. You can go to StarCast with 2 R's, starcast.com. They have hotel reservation, cars, flight deals that they've created. Conrad's hooking it up. They actually have a discount code with Southwest that goes on sale February 1st. So they are really doing a big push. I will tell you, if you've always had an idea of like Woodstock, StarCast last year was like a kind of a wrestling Woodstock. So you should definitely be there. You should definitely be there if you can.
Absolutely. I do believe it is time to wrap up our first episode of the new show, my friend.
All right.
Any parting words?
Just got a couple plugs. Pro Wrestling Tees doing a sale starting today at 12 till Monday at 12, 15% off everything with the code RUMBLE. You should go buy some Social Suplex t-shirts.
Absolutely, yes. That's one thing that I would like to part with as well, is we want to thank everyone at Social Suplex, including Jeremy Donovan, for giving us the opportunity to be on the podcast network, to be on the website. They gave me my first ever job in the wrestling business, and now they've given us a very unique opportunity, a very awesome opportunity to be a part of their ever-growing podcast network, man. So thank you, Jeremy. Thank you all the guys at Social Suplex. We truly appreciate it.
Yep, and my parting words is, hey, whatever you do in life, I will sign off with make sure you're trying to make it elite.
All right, guys, thank y'all so much. Floyd, thank you so much. I learned something from you new every single day, so I truly appreciate it. And until next week, guys, stay strong and too sweet.